Welcome back to the On Business podcast. With tons of experience in different industries in Canada and the United States, Danielle and Brandon give you real talk, no nonsense expert advice about running and owning successful companies. Here's your host, Danielle Jenkins and Brandon White.
Started calling it purposeful business because it used to be, well, I say used to be, maybe it still is, triple bottom line or socially responsible business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. Here under Forbes, it says, linked to authenticity, this trend is all about ensuring your organization or company exists to serve a meaningful purpose and not just serve up profits to shareholders. Purpose defines why the organization exists, not what the organization is or what it does or for who. Therefore, purpose is different to mission and vision. Importantly, a strong purpose has the promise of transformation or striving for something better, be it a better world, a better way to do something, or whatever is important to your organization. So thought it was a very cool topic to talk about because do they have this? And why is it so important why did Forbes consider it an important trend for 2022? So I thought we should talk about it and because I think it's interesting.
Well, a few things. I think it's a trend because it's become a trendy thing to say, but the challenge has been that legally, and I think this is true I know it's true in the United States, and it's certainly true in Canada. I know it's certainly true in the United States. I'm pretty sure it's the same in Canada, is as a corporation, you have a fiduciary responsibility to your shareholders first. Mm-hmm. And the famous case in this field was Ben & Jerry's ice cream when they sold to Unilever, and they did not want to sell to Unilever when they sold Ben & Jerry's. They wanted to sell to another company that was more socially responsible. So purposeful company, socially responsible, whatever, triple bottom line, whatever you want to say. And they did not and could not have sell because they needed to optimize for the shareholders and felt that they would be sued if they sold Ben & Jerry's for a lower price, taking social responsibility into account. So that's the quote unquote famous case out there that has led to this. The reason that I know so much about this is because I helped get legislation passed in the United States, and Maryland was the first state to do this, to actually create what they've called a benefit corporation, which is a purposeful corporation. And Jamie Raskin was the Maryland, I guess he's a senator, rep, whatever he is, in lawmaker, that really pushed it through. And then the group who created a nonprofit called B Corporation, which created the benefit corporation, they were founders of a company called And One, as in And One in basketball, and they had a clothing company and came up with this idea. And the challenge, which the Ben & Jerry's ice cream company example illustrates, was that legally they just couldn't do that. So this law that we got passed actually changed the legal language to say that you could take the triple bottom line into account. So it was the shareholders, but it was also your community and the environment. I'm dumbing that down a little bit into big categories, but it said that legally was allowed. And we were our fishing clothing company, which is still lingering around, was the first B Corporation in the United States. There might have been like 1 minute or something difference between us and one other person, but nonetheless, we were the first B Corporation in the United States, and then that has since proliferated to other states, and we got an award for it. I thought it was important mainly because it's very hard not to take these other things into account. But if at the end of the day, the legal language doesn't support it and you wind up getting sued, then you just cost yourself more money by trying to do something good. So that's effectively, and you can now in the United States, I don't know how many states have already adopted it. I'm pretty sure Delaware in the United States is where most corporations register, because the case law for businesses is in their favor for the most part. So you will hear businesses, most public companies, register in Delaware. You'll also see some Florida and some Wyoming, and maybe some Las Vegas, Nevada. But for the most part, the big state that they needed to get past was Delaware. And I'm pretty sure they created a benefit corporation in Delaware. So the triple bottom line is one of those things that now legally, if you register, but I'm not a lawyer, so if you're listening, Danielle and I aren't giving legal advice. You need to talk to your lawyer, because it can have tremendous impact on your business. If you are not registered, or there isn't the equivalent in Canada, you do risk getting sued by the shareholders for not optimizing profit. I mean, that is, if you're a sole owner and you own all the shares in your C Corp or whatever equivalent, then it doesn't matter. But if you have any sort of investors, that's when it becomes complicated. So that's some history of what's happened in the United States around this purposeful business, which I think is what they mean by that, don't you think, from what you read?
Yeah, for sure. I think it is interesting because ultimately, when it comes down to business, at the end of the day, unless you're like a non-for-profit organization, we're all in business to make money, whether it's you're self-employed or whether you have your shareholders. So whether you're a person, like a 1-person show, a 10-person show, or a 100-person show, ultimately we need to make money. And so crazy that law is involved, because I like having, obviously for us, I want to make money. That's my job. That's what I want to do, or I wouldn't have this company that I do. However, I do want to make sure that my company is purposeful. We're trying to be sustainable. Like our product line, we are sustainable, we are biodegradable. So that helps with the environment. We do, living wage certified. So that helps with our economy and the economics and our employees. We do a lot of charitable stuff. So there's like our philanthropic aspect. So there's like so many good, gracious things that our company is a part of. But ultimately, if it came down to the law, and we had to decide whether, I stopped giving so much money because our shareholders are going to get annoyed, things like that. So it's quite interesting that this is actually a quote unquote trend that is coming in. And while you were talking, I actually looked up, because you were asking if it is in Canada, if we have B Corp. So B Corp, we do have B Corps here. The first BDC was the first financial institution in Canada to receive a B Corp certification. The certification reaffirms our unwavering commitment to creating greater economic, social, and environmental value for Canada and its entrepreneurs. In February 2022, there were over 4,673 certified B corporations across 155 industries and in 78 countries, including Canada. Okay, so Canada had 78 companies that were B Corp as of February 2022 this year.
So there you go. The B Corp certification is part of the B Corporation nonprofit that certifies you, which has some requirements that you have to show what you have to put out a report effectively every year. It could have changed a little bit since we were involved. I keep up with it just tangentially now. One of the companies that we have, I think I want to make a B Corp, but for listeners, you can become B Corp certified without having the legal corporation with the government registered. But it is important at some point to make sure in a sale that you are a registered corporation in a state, province, wherever you are, that supports and has the benefit actual corporation. So what we're talking about here, Danielle, is a C Corp, an LLC in the United States, a S Corp designation, or a sole proprietorship, which really nobody should have. But it's an official designation. So with C Corp, with an LLC, there is actually a benefit corp. So you can become B Corp. Domestic Divas could become a
B
benefit
Corp
corporation certified, but then you want to make sure that you go back and change your corporate papers and register in a state that does that so that you're aligned. So that's it. It's a little bit confusing, but it is similar to becoming certified in something else, and it's a good designation because you are audited. They do require this annual audit, so to speak, where you have to put out a report of what you've done. And really, that holds you accountable, and it communicates to your customers and other people that you are actually doing it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I was looking up here some B Corps in Canada, and there's some very cool ones that really are in industries that you almost wouldn't think. And obviously we would have to look into it more and see like what they're actually doing for these things. But there's a company out of Vancouver called All Purpose Creative Inc. And they are a creative agency. So they have freelance writers, designers, illustrators, videographers, things like that. And they are a certified B Corp. And it says here, All Purpose is a creative agency. We help organizations drive positive change through the design and creation of experiences and products. We believe inside every organization, there are people who are ready to change the world. So that's interesting because, you know, a design company, you wouldn't like off the top of your head, what are you thinking would be their economic or environmental change or impact to the community, right? There's a few other ones. This Good Gift Co. They do gift baskets and things between businesses. So I could hire them for, you know, to buy gifts for your business. Sustainable Advantage. Now this one sounds like it could be something that would make sense because so they work with companies to integrate sustainability strategies into their existing company strategies. So that's interesting. And I think that that's a cool one that applies really well.
Well, I think the services businesses that are part of that, and there's a bunch of them in the United States, I believe, can have an impact because you could use solar instead of using coal electricity. You could be doing things in your community as a company. You could take into account when you sell or if you sell that you're going to sell to what you believe is a socially responsible company that is taking you over, so to speak, and taking care of your employees. Mm-hmm. That socially responsible and environmental, the two other prongs to it, there's a lot of things that you could do. You could, you know, Patagonia is a company that allows, and they're not the only one, they're just the one that came to mind, that they allow a certain amount of hours a year paid if people are doing other nonprofit work. So they actually, I don't know what the number is, but say you get 40 hours a year that you're paid, that Patagonia pays their employees to go work for these nonprofit efforts.
Like for volunteer work.
Yeah. So that would be an example where a service company could still be a triple bottom line company. I think it's like you were saying, when you have a product, it's easier to think, okay, well, we're going to do biodegradable cleaning stuff. We're going to do recycled packaging. We're going to do these what seem tangible, but you could also, and this is a COVID thing, but if you allow people in administrative jobs to work from home, you're effectively reducing the carbon footprint, given that most people don't have electric cars. And I do have an electric car, and I don't want to sound like this big advocate for electric cars, because electric cars aren't always good. You could still power the electric car with coal electricity. So if you're not sort of making sure the grid is clean, then that doesn't mean it. But there's all these things that you can do. You can buy office furniture. It sounds dumb, but you could buy office furniture that's only made of recyclable
material.
Yeah, plastic, wood. There's tons of things that, like today, I need a new tabletop for our in-studio desk, and I was gonna make one, and I was like, I can just go to a recycled or refurbished or whatever they call it wood place, which we have here in Half Moon Bay, and go, instead of buying one from IKEA. I'm not busting on IKEA because I think IKEA has recycled materials anyway, but instead of going there and buying another new thing, I could just go to this other place and find one that, can be refurbished. So I think all those they sound trivial, but they do add up.
And I think it just adds to being a good, company or business owner. I mean, we do so many things, but are we B Corp certified? So now it's making my head spin, because ultimately, could I get in trouble for doing some of these things if they are affecting the bottom line for shareholders?
Well, the question, so I think we need to talk about that a little bit and unpack it again. I'm not a lawyer, but I do have experience in this. I think that most of it revolves around a sale of the company. However, you make a very valid point that what if you are allocating could be seen as a significant amount of your G&A to the toy matching drive that you do every year?
Right.
And is that, could a shareholder come back and say, well, we think you're doing too much charitable work? It's an interesting thing that at least the organization of the corporation as a B Corp would protect you more. But I want to be clear that just because you're B Corp certified doesn't mean that would protect you. You would need to go reincorporate as an actual B corporation, different than the designation that you are now, because the certification itself is really an outward-facing certification. It's not a legal, you have to take that extra step. But It's a good question. Like, yeah, I mean, if you have shareholders, you don't have any shareholders?
I don't know. But it's a general conversation, like a general topic, because if I did, charitable work is very important to me. Like, I donate a lot of money, personal and company, to community initiatives, programs that need funding, events that, are for the community splash pad, things like that. So I do a lot of that. So if one day I have 3 other shareholders and they really don't give a shit about the splash pad that we just donated $40,000 to, could it be detrimental? Could it be an issue, right? So these are important things to talk about, because for anybody who maybe is starting a business or has a business and maybe wants to do more, B Corp stuff, this is something to think about, especially if you're planning on becoming even larger. Once you hit, say, 10 million, you have more shareholders, things like that. I mean, it's important things to think about. You don't want to be in that position and then get screwed.
No, I think you just have to, if you do have shareholders, you need to be aligned. But people change and people's opinions change, and, it's not bad. I think the one thing that I wouldn't want to happen, that I think some movements have tried to make happen, is that making money is bad and it's evil and all these things. Like, making money is not bad. It is not evil. And there's nothing wrong with it. That if people didn't make money in business, we wouldn't have what we have. In fact, the irony that where some of these narratives come from is from large nonprofits that were founded by entrepreneurs who made a bunch of money. So, you wouldn't even have a job if entrepreneurs didn't create these things. So money is not evil. I think it is weaponized, and I think it's dangerous. I think doing the right thing should just be doing the right thing. That's why I grew up. It wasn't called a triple bottom line, and that was sort of a movement that came a decade or two ago, and now that's being called purposeful business. I think it just really just be a effing responsible citizen of Earth.
Yeah, like a half decent person.
Like, just be a good human on Earth, and try to take care of other people. It doesn't mean everybody needs to like you, and it doesn't mean that you will like everyone. There's 7 billion people on this earth. I think I can accept that I'm not going to like everyone, and they're not going to like me, but it doesn't mean that we don't share the same planet or the same place, and that we should probably try to take care of it. So I think it's like, why do we even have to create these frameworks around just being a good effing human?
Actually, I have to add to that little point that you just made. When people always say, well, why is this a thing? Or why do we need this? Or why is this in this contract? And like 99% of the time, it's because somebody has created a problem about it or bitched about it or something. And I have to laugh. So on Monday, I was with my lawyers doing the documentation for the closing of this condo. And so because it's a condo building in a city, there's going to be noise, obviously, because, on one side you have a Starbucks and a McDonald's and things like that. And on the other side, you have some grass and some townhouses and whatever. So one of the documents that the condo court made us sign were, I, Danielle Jenkins, will not sue or create issues. And I acknowledge that the condo is in a city that there will be noise. And I laughed, and he said, you're laughing. He says, but it's because somebody's bitched about buying a condo in this building and they don't like the noise. And so, we started laughing about it, and he was telling me about a story how somebody bought a home in this beautiful area, and the back of it was really close to an airstrip, like a airplane strip. And after they bought this house, they came back to the realtor and tried to sue the realtor for selling them a home that is very noisy, and they didn't realize how noisy it was going to be. You just bought a house next to a fucking airstrip, so of course it's going to be noisy. So, it's funny that you said this, but back to the point about the B Corp, like, why do we need to have this? Is it because some greedy shareholder got pissed off with somebody donating too much money to charity, or didn't give a shit about the environment and all just wanted all the money? Who knows? Well,
it's because the laws say you only optimize for profits, and it never took into account the other things. I mean, that's a literal answer, but a lot of it is, to your point, it's because it's funny when you said the noise thing. We had this is actually a thing here in Half Moon Bay. There is fog here occasionally, and most of the time it's sitting right offshore, but there's fog and there's foghorns. Oh, amazing. Right? Foghorn, novel idea. Lighthouses, novel ideas. A person moved into Half Moon Bay, and the foghorn, the main foghorn is on a reef or shelf that's on the north end of Half Moon Bay off a Pillar Point, which Pillar Point jets out into the ocean because Half Moon Bay is sort of a bay, and you could easily come in towards shore and then hit this point and run aground. And it's sort of a cool thing. Like I listen for that every night if you open your window, you can hear the foghorn on, and it's sort of this, you can hear the ocean and the foghorn. It's sort of cool. He complained that he thought the foghorn was too loud and was disrupting his sleep. Now, the foghorn is loud because if you're on a ship or a boat and the water is slapping against the hull, you probably won't freaking hear a low volume foghorn. I think horn, it designates, and to your point, like, so yeah, unfortunately there's these, and maybe he didn't do his diligence. You didn't do your diligence. You moved to a community on the effing ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Northern Pacific Ocean, which is just a rough spot in a place that everyone knows has fog. I mean, that's what happens when cool air meets warm air. Would make sense. And, then you have to create some bullshit law that is done. So that, and then what happens, and I think some of these things are legitimate concerns. If the people on top of you stomp their feet all day long and you're in a condo,
right?
Like, come on, man. Like,
you're just an asshole. Yeah,
we're all living in this thing. You got it. This just goes back to, can you just be a good effing human? Yeah. Like, do you understand what that would be like for somebody who, I mean, but then what happens is it spirals, right? Now we're trying to protect. We have to protect everything, and it becomes this crazy world where it's like, if we're going to go down that rabbit hole, Jesus, can you imagine how long a contract would be?
Yeah, it's
your
crazy.
dog can only bark 29 times in a day.
Between the hours of 9 and 5 when I'm not home. Thank you.
I'm just saying, like, so I think that this social responsibility, I think it's a good thing. I think a triple bottom line is a good thing. If you're not doing it, it doesn't mean you're bad. And I'm sure you still do good things. And you know what? If you make a lot of money in your business and you don't want to do anything to donate to charities or anything like that, you know what? I might not like it and you might not like it, but they get to make that choice because they did it.
They're the owner.
I think that we should be good humans. I'm not saying you should donate money. I'm just saying be a good citizen of Earth. But if you don't want to do that, I don't get to tell you what to do. I can have an opinion that I think it would be nice for you to do something, but you don't get to tell that person what to do with their money. And I think that is a line that the movements can tend to attack people who don't do it. And I just don't think that's right. I mean, the one that comes to mind is Steve Jobs. A lot of people criticized him that he didn't give a lot of money to charity. And who knows? Maybe he did and he just hid it because he didn't want all these people calling him up asking for money, and he did it through some 3 shell corps or something. I'm not saying he did or didn't. I'm just saying it's like the Elon Musk
trying
discussion.
to end world hunger and stuff.
Yeah, like, why are you going to Mars when you should be doing world hunger? Well, I mean, have you donated to world hunger? Are you donating 30% of your income to then I can't afford it, Brandon. Well, you definitely can afford to invest your time in telling someone else what to do. I think that maybe you should invest your time in making more money so that you can further the cause that you're passionate about.
Right.
How about doing that? Because time is currency.
Or if you can't give money, go and give your time.
Yeah, there you go. Like, stop posting on Twitter and with your time and go advocate for what you think you should do. I mean, it's just, humans are
crazy.
They're very predictable animals. They're very predictable animals. I've been reading that book again. What is it called? I told you about it. not that you should remember. Like, Danielle, you should remember.
I'll just start taking notes what you tell me, Brandon.
That's a type A personality for you. Stolen Focus. And it's the book has, I recommend that people read the book, and I did in the newsletter, but I tell you, it's gone off the rails, Danielle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like this topic. It's that he has started to go way off the rails in that this is socially responsible. He says that if you use techniques, basically I'm summarizing, if you use techniques that you know will get people to use your product, or that, air quotes, exploit the dopamine rush, that you shouldn't be able to do that. And he has gone as far to say that social media, it could be a good idea to make social media companies a utility like the electric company, and let the government run social media companies, which seems to me to say that the government should take over the internet. I don't know. It's a good book in the beginning to become aware of these things so that you can stop yourself. But anyway, I mean, that's just an example of where doing the right thing and then going too far over the line to say, well, you know, Danielle, I don't think giving kids toys are important. I think that you should be giving homeless people, I think you should be using that money to build homes. We could have built 3 homes with that $40,000 that you donated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you don't.
Well, where's your $40,000 check?
Well, I can't afford it, Danielle. I can't afford that.
Well, then go and volunteer to help somebody else build a home for someone.
That's all I'm saying.
Plenty.
I think the point is you just can't take this over the line.
No.
If somebody does something good, that's their choice. My opinion and your opinion is, hey, be a good citizen of Earth. Be a good human. Try to keep your shit together. But you're not entitled to tell people what they should or shouldn't do.
Mm-hmm. I just want to also add a point to being a good human. My experience this week tipped me over the edge. 3 times in the last 2 months, I have either come out of my office or come out of the grocery store, and some asshole has dinged my car. I got one on my driver door. I got one on my passenger door that I got buffed out and fixed 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yesterday, I came out of Home Depot and somebody had, you know, like the long trolley things where they put the long pieces of wood on. It was windy, and it had obviously, like, I guess, sideswiped my passenger door. So it scratched the shit out of my passenger door. I am the most accepting, forgiving person. If somebody came to me and said, I'm so sorry, like they waited at my car, I'm so sorry this happened, here's my number, get a quote, I'll pay half or something, it was so windy, I'm so sorry, whatever it may be. I have not seen these people. I have not gotten numbers. I haven't gotten business cards. I haven't gotten a kiss my ass or anything regarding this. So one thing I would like to say is if you accidentally ding someone's car, please just leave a little note that says, I'm so sorry for dinging your car. You don't even have to offer to pay. Just acknowledge or own up to the fact that you just did that. Because I'm telling you, yesterday when I came out and I saw that, I've accepted the first 2. And I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. And got them fixed. And now this one, I actually put a rant on Instagram about it because I am sick and tired of people not being human or decent humans. Like, just apologize and just at least acknowledge that you've done it and not just leave. Because you obviously know you've done it. So that's just my rant to being a decent human.
I didn't see your rant on Instagram, but I caught myself this morning looking at it, and I turned it off. But yeah, I hate that, Danielle. I really hate it because the problem is that when that happens to your car, luckily these dings, if you get them, you can pull them out and get them buffed out. But it is a pain in the butt But when a major thing happens and there's an insurance claim,
Mm-hmm.
it has now affected your asset.
Mm-hmm.
And it never can go back.
Right.
And it just, I park, I don't know about you, but I park. Yvette hates it, but yeah, it's good to get some steps in anyway. I park at the way end.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the funny thing that happens is you park out in the boonies in the parking lot,
And they still hit
someone
you.
still parks next to you.
I know. And parks this close. And I have to say, I also, the other day, again, you probably saw it on my Instagram, and for any of the listeners that follow me on Instagram, so I had, and I'm sure your Tesla has it too, they have like the cameras, right, for the backup, and you can see the front and the back end. So I got into my car and went, and I wasn't even looking because, again, most people park between the lines. So they have the parallel parking lines that you're supposed to park your car in the middle of the front and the back line. So I get into my car, I go to reverse, a foot just to be able to pull out. And somebody was, Brandon, literally, I could read the license plate sticker on their license plate.
I saw, you said, thanks for, how am I supposed
it's
to get
okay,
out?
I don't need to get out of my parking spot today. Yeah, because literally, and so when I got out and looked at where they were like 3 feet over the front line of where their car was supposed to be.
Yeah, the good news and the bad news, I guess, for on Teslas, there's probably like 15 cameras around that car, and it has a sentry mode, as in like the sentry who protected castles, and you get everything. I mean, everything. It's not just a front and back camera. It's a side. It's a sub side. You get all the video of that. But yeah, I hate that. I think going back to just being a good citizen, and in your company, if you want to do something good, then everybody benefits. The getting certified is a good way to convey to your customers that you care.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that having that is a good thing. I think that sometimes that can get abused and that people will just use it for marketing. But, even then, at least you're getting audited every year, and you're going to, even if you show up, you're on a calendar year and in December or November, you panic because you haven't done anything, but you still want the B Corporation or the B Corp certification, and all of a sudden you do some good things, then it still worked. And in the sense that even though you might have been doing it just for marketing, it still pushed you to do something good. So I think all of these things are generally good. I think being a good corporate citizen is a good thing. I think that you just have to, you can't get caught up in the, one thing that you can't get caught up in the online Twitterverse that's forcing people to do things. Because one thing you texted me earlier this morning when we were talking about this topic was authenticity. And I think just be authentic. Mm-hmm. Just be authentic. All too often, we're so scared to be authentic because ultimately our human psyche is that we want to be liked, or a lot of people do. And that just takes away your authentic self. Just be authentic. If you want to clean up streams, if you want to help homeless people, if you want to give toys away, if you don't want to do any of it, just whatever you want to do, just be authentic. Mm-hmm. And authenticity, good and bad, for what is perceived, actually will help your business. Steve Jobs, I go back to that because it was just it's an easy, slow pitch to talk about. The fact that he didn't and decided not to, and that people criticized him, actually still helped his business because they were still talking about him. Mm-hmm. What is it? That's bad. There's no bad press.
Yeah.
I mean, there is bad press, but they're still talking about you. They're still investing their moments of their life that they will never get back to talk about you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of funny when you start to analyze your time. You start to say, wow, am I really going to invest in worrying about what someone else doing that I can't control? Maybe I should just invest that time in myself. I think this has become very poignant for me lately. As I'm writing this other book, the business plan book, or how to build a business plan and pitch deck. But I'm tangentially working on a book that I think is going to take me a minute. I know it's taking me a minute, which is, you and I have talked about it on the show a little bit. What is happiness, and how to be happy? And I think all of this analysis of time, like, just think about how much time you take worrying or investing in what you think other people should do.
It's true.
I mean, what a waste.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. But this has been a good topic. Something that you don't typically think about on a regular basis, but I think it's very important, socially, personally, and corporately. Business owners, I think it's important to be a little bit involved. But if you choose not to, that's completely up to you, because guess what? You're the boss. And that's the benefit that we have of being business owners.
Yeah. I will put, for listeners, the B Corp nonprofit, and then I'll put a link. If you found it, you can text it to me after the show. The information on, it probably is on the B Corporation website, what states and what provinces in other countries, including Canada, can actually have the legislation passed that you can do that. So we'll put all that in the show notes. If you start looking around and you're listening, if you start looking for a little B Corp on people's websites, you'll actually see it. There's more than you think out there. And there's some really high profile, large brand names that are B Corps. In fact, Patagonia is a B Corp, I'm pretty sure. They also did 1% for the planet. But some other big names out there are B Corps that are worth investigating. So we'll put all that in the show notes. Danielle and I have no financial interest in, no financial interest in B Corporation or anything else other than just being good citizens of Earth and trying to be a good human and leave this place a little bit better than what we came into it with.
And don't ding people's cars without saying sorry.
Yeah, don't ding people's cars. That's not being a good citizen on Earth.
Awesome.
All right, it's been fun.
Yes, thanks everyone.
Week. Bye everyone.